This episode of TWIMMO is brought to you by Shutterstock. For 25% off your new account, head on over to Shutterstock.com and use the offer code GameBreaker10.
Breaker TV.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in MMO, number 164 for October 4th, 2013. You are watching GameBreaker TV. As you can tell, I'm still not Gary Gannon, because he's still over in Europe. He'll be back. He's coming back on Saturday for all of you guys in chat that I see you already asking, campaigning to bring Gary back. He's on his way. He's coming shortly. Coming up tonight, today, this afternoon, this morning, this evening, good night. Everquest Next Landmark is Everquest Next. And Everquest Next Landmark is Everquest Next. Wait, what? I'm getting a little bit confused, but we'll get into the show and get into the details. Joining me today, you guys know him right here from each week on This Week in MMO, and one of the writers for MMO Bomb, Mr. Jason Winter.
I'm already confused. What are we doing today? What time is it?
It's going to be really confusing. The time's off. Apparently... two games or one game, I don't even know. It's gonna be ridiculous. Let's just go. Let's forget the whole thing. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next week.
All right.
No, I'm kidding. All right, so Forbes had a great interview with Dave Georgeson on EverQuest Next, or should I rather say EverQuest Next Landmark, because it's getting a little bit confusing at this point. Last week, we talked a little bit about how Landmark was going to have some combat elements, and now we actually get to see just how big of a deal that's all going to be. So he said that Landmark will have a wide range of combat experiences, and it's going to use some of the same emergent AI systems found in EverQuest Next, but possibly not in the same exact way. As far as actual combat AI goes, it will be the same model. Now, Jason, we kind of did wonder a little bit about how PvP was going to work in the last episode, but with kind of the emergence of an AI system here, it sounds like they're more talking about kind of the thematic survival of kind of Minecraft PvE.
Yeah, I mean, they're not really saying that they're going to do the emergent stuff like they have where they show, you know, you'll build up your settlement over weeks and eventually monsters will come raid it, you drive them off, so on and so forth. This sounds like just kind of the basic AI of how the game works and how monsters work and so on and so forth. So, again, it sounds kind of like the testing, the beta test or whatever it is for just getting the mechanics in there and trying them out before they try to move on to the really complex emergent AI campaigning kind of stuff.
But I guess, I mean, here's the thing is he kind of said at the end of the interview that he went and kind of teased PvP as well.
Well, but again, I guess, yeah, you did say that, but I guess that's something you don't really need a campaign or anything built around that. Just as long as you got guys that can do powers on other guys, you can do PvP. I mean, at least on that level of it, you can have it. Now, whether they'll have battlegrounds or capture point, open world PvP or whatever, I don't know, but
at this point,
pounding each other, sure.
At this point, I don't understand. Like, I'm not trying to say don't give us two games, but why? Why, if these games are so similar, and I get it, Landmarks where you can customize and custom build stuff that can be translated over to but why? Why are these two different games? Because you're basically adding in all the same features from both games to both games.
The only thing I could think of is kind of like if you have, take PlanetSide 2 as like a game. It's a PvP open world shooter, you know, kind of game. Whereas if they wanted to make a PvE kind of PlanetSide with the same gun, same theme, whatever, they'd probably be better off making that as a separate game as opposed to. And that's all people do. It's all people do with MMOs. They always make, well, we got to have PvE, we got to have PvP, and we got to have.
But do you see Do you see EverQuest Next being a platform of like the PvP grounds? Because I don't. I think it's going to be much more of a God, I don't even know. I get that they're two different experiences, but
I don't think it's the PvE PvP split so much as it is the kind of building and Minecraft-y kind of experience. I think that's mostly going to be a landmark thing, and then the traditional MMO kind of adventuring and killing stuff will be mostly a next thing. If that's what you want to do, that's all you want to do. You're just going to play it next. Whereas if you want to be a builder and craft all sorts of cool stuff and whatever, you might be more inclined to play landmark. And maybe by keeping them separate, at least to some extent, they can make it so that they can totally alter how one works when they want to, without overly or completely interfering with how the other works.
I mean, I guess I can see how that is beneficial. You know, a lot of people talk about World of Warcraft, and again, I know that you're not saying PvE versus PvP, but a lot of people talk to that effect about how they'll change something because of the rating, and it'll thusly affect the PvP or vice versa. So I think that does make sense, and having that separation between the two games is great for the people that don't want to mix and match. But I guess then the other thing is by keeping them so similar, you encourage people who really want to play and experience this universe to play both, because the games are so similar.
Yeah, I mean, you on the other hand, you do run the risk of getting people in one but not the other, and therefore giving them kind of a partial experience. So take the example of a PvE game. If you really like PvE and you only ever really think you want to do PvE, one point, maybe you step into the PvP, you know, click on a queue or whatever, and you go into the battleground. Maybe you wind up liking it a lot. You play a lot of PvP, so it gives you the opportunity very easily, just by like, you know, queuing up for something, to try that other thing out. Might be something you like. Now maybe you think you are just an adventurer, want to go kill dragons, whatever, screw this building crap, and you only play next. You're maybe never going to try and download Landmark because you just think it's something you don't want. Whereas it might be something you do like. You tried it out, but maybe it won't. So that's kind of the disadvantage of having this segregation.
Now, Dave actually continued on to say that if you want to be able to be ranged, you'll be able to. Spells and melee, you'll be able to. The same mechanisms that will be found in Everquest Next, you'll be able to swap out different tools or weapons to mix and match character abilities. And he's talking specifically about, you know, the combat system here, because the combat systems are going to be sharing very things. It doesn't really make sense to develop two combat systems for this. So I'm assuming, though, here that what he's talking about with you'll be able to be spell or melee, you'll be able to be ranged, you'll be able to swap and mix and match as you want, but there won't be 40 classes worth of customization in Landmark, right? That just seems insane.
I think they've only talked about really doing the adventure. I could see if they wanted to maybe introduce a little bit more, again, for purposes of testing to see how different combinations maybe work. But he's saying right here,
if you want to be ranged, you'll be able to. Spells and melee, you'll be able to.
Well, maybe the adventure is a really hybrid class that can do a little of everything. Maybe that's the idea behind it. So.
Do you think that, I mean, even if it's just a single adventurer class with a lot of versatility, do you think that there are going to be different weapons, different abilities, kind of real customization, real choice that MMO players have traditionally found? They have to have those kind of elements, right? They're going to. I think
they're going to have some of that, definitely. I mean, you don't want to be where everyone's running around with a sword and that's all you can do. And an adventurer sounds generic enough. You can imagine an adventurer using a sword or a bow or a gun or finding magic spells or whatever. It doesn't sound like it's, you know, roundly fits into warrior or mage or anything like that. It's something they can do just about anything. Could have stealth skills for all. You know, I think adventure. I think of, you know, I don't know, like Lara Croft or something like that. She would use anything that's around, and not be limited to a certain type of weapon or armor or whatever.
Now, finally, he actually went on to state, we are still debating exactly how we want to implement this, but one theory is that we'll have some continents that are non-combat oriented and some that are more risk oriented. Or perhaps the rule that monsters won't wander into people's claims. People that want to be able to build without monsters will be able to do that, and people that want to risk, that do want risk, will be able to play with risk and get greater associated rewards. Now, real quick, before we move on, because we talked about this a little bit last week, you know, I brought up the idea during last week's show of the two different play styles and playing for that gold nugget at the end of the tunnel. From the sounds of it here, he's kind of saying that if you choose to put yourself in the combat environment, you're going to get greater reward out of it. Whether that means you'll have better items, exclusive items, or, Jason, do you think that he's simply saying that greater quantity? So if I stay in a PvP environment, I'll get 5 golden nuggets, whereas if I stay in a PvE, I might be lucky to come across 1. How do you think this will play out?
I would think more in the terms of the more as opposed to the different, because you still want people to be able to build just about anything, but maybe you're giving them, it's like playing a free-to-play game where you get the choice between leveling at a certain rate, or if you pay a little money for XP boost or whatever, you can level faster, you get more stuff. If you take the, I don't know, riskier is the way to put it, but you take the more effort required kind of route, or the more, I guess not really effort, it's spending money to get XP, but whatever. So yeah, I think they don't want to necessarily cut off people who don't want to kill and loot and do that sort of thing. They don't want to cut them off from being able to build stuff, being able to build whatever they want, even if they have to go about it a certain different way.
Now, despite these combat elements, I don't really think that it's designed to be the core of the gameplay. You're not jumping in this to fight. It's really, as you said, about the exploration. It's about the crafting. It's about building. But do you think to keep people and players interested, there's kind of a significant, an optional combat element? Because we're an ADD generation. We're not used to playing games for the most part if there isn't some semblance of combat in it. Even Minecraft, which is very much what EverQuest Landmark is going to be like, has a form of combat in it. So do you think that it kind of got placed in there because people people's attention needs to be able to be encapsulated in it?
Well, it depends. I mean, take Minecraft as an example. A lot of people play on servers where there are no monsters, and they just love building stuff over and over. So, and Minecraft has survived for years with that MO, and for a lot of people. So I think that it's possible that you can have a whole lot of building. A lot of people are going to be really into it even without the combat. But you are right in that a lot of people are going to expect combat in my MMO. They're not going to want to just passively go around and punch trees or whatever it is you're going to have to do in EverQuest Next Landmark. So I think that they are trying to get both sides of that. They understand that there's a lot of people out there who just want the building aspect of things and the exploration and so on. But you're right, they need to satisfy that ADD crowd that's got to be punching something or hacking or burning something every 20 seconds or so. And this is the way that they're going to do it, by having the option of doing both.
And it's so weird, you even kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, and we joked about it last week, was that, EverQuest Next Landmark is almost kind of like a beta program for EverQuest Next. So maybe, do you think that they're like, what, we want to make sure our combat is as fluid as possible in our MMO. We need to test it. So let's put it in our beta testing grounds known as a free-to-play game.
Yeah, that's probably about how they're planning to do it. Just because they're not even going to have combat right at the beginning. They're going to ramp it. They say they're going to put it in later. So again, that sounds to me like that's also what you do in a typical game. It's like, well, we're going to launch without combat, then we're going to put it in later. That sounds like a testing environment as opposed to a real full right from the start kind of game. And they say that let me try something real quick here.
I'm trying to boost up. Yeah, I tried to boost you a little bit on my end. Okay. I guess also here, one of the advantages that SOE kind of gets to play with is the fact that Landmark is launching actually later this year. But I've got a question here. It's already October. I can't believe, for the moment, I can't actually believe it's already October. Holy cow, where did this year go? But we're only 3 months away from the end of the year. When is our release date going to be? I mean, November, early December, or Christmas? It's a Christmas present. I figured it out. It's a Christmas present to the world.
Again, because it's a kind of sort of beta, it's like they don't need to have, again, what a normal game would have, which is a lengthy, months-long beta process. I think they can just dive right in. You can play with whatever you've got, and they don't need to announce it, months and months ahead of time and have people test it for a long time, because it is the test, sort of.
Do you think
So,
that they
I mean,
can kind of launch it with bare bones features and kind of implement stuff as they go and kind of build up this landmark experience as the beta for the game?
I think that's exactly what they're going to do. I think they're going to launch it, going to announce it probably less than a month before when they're going to go live with it, and then just like you said, ramp stuff up on the pace at which you would kind of hear about doing updates for a beta, which is, hey guys, next Tuesday we're going to put in blah. So there it is. And that's like on Thursday they'll say that, and that's about how it might go.
Now, I'm really curious about, you seem, and I don't disagree with you, you seem to be pretty firm on this statement that there's two audiences for these two games. There will be some crossover, there will be some non-crossover, but really they're targeted at two specific different gaming genres. But what do you think is going to happen to Landmark when Next comes out? Is it just going to see a flood of people leave? Or do you think that there's enough of that kind of gameplay there to keep a solid community thriving in that game?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. When I think of it from my own personal standpoint, and I'm not a big Minecraft builder kind of player, it's not my thing. If like both of them were launching right now, I would be spending probably 99% of my time in Next. Maybe occasionally going to Landmark just to see what it's like and see if I can maybe come up with something. Now again, maybe that's not what everyone else is going to do, but I would tend to think that's the approach most people will take. But for now, of course, because it's all we've got, we'll be really interested in Landmark, because it's what we're going to have for about a year or so. After Next comes out, there will definitely be a big shift away from Landmark, at least in the beginning, because everyone's going to want to get into the real game. They want to play that. Next will probably be just deserted for weeks or months. But I think they can still keep people in there once they've gotten over that initial thrill of playing Next. Keep people in Landmark for the purposes of building more stuff, creating more stuff. Once they'll see how their stuff was implemented, the stuff they built was implemented in Next, and be more interested in going back to Landmark to try and get more of their stuff into Next. I think that's going to be what fuels it. Not so much Landmark itself, but the effect Landmark will have on Next.
Let's move on from Everquest Next. I think we'll obviously be talking about this for a while to come. But before we move on, I want to tell you guys about a sponsor that we have here at GameBreaker, Shutterstock.com. Shutterstock is a must-have tool for anyone in the creative industry. They've got over 20 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, video clips, and Shutterstock really helps you take your creative projects to the next level. If you're looking to inject your YouTube channel or your website with some instant credibility, Shutterstock is the place to go. Whether you need stock photography or stock footage, even art assets to kind of help flesh out some of your images, Shutterstock is the place to be. If you're looking for anything at all, I kind of teased a little bit about this, and I've been teasing for a while. It's all over the place. People use Shutterstock more than you think. I was watching Dexter, which was there was a series finale of Dexter, and this element actually showed up in the last 2 episodes. So if you guys are Dexter fans, be sure to kind of keep your eyes open and try and spot it for yourselves. But I just encourage you guys to really open up your eyes. You'd be surprised how many elements you can find out there in the real world and how much Shutterstock is just used indefinitely by the creative industry. If you guys are looking for a certain color palette, their tool called Spectrum can handle that. Simply define the color and keywords of the images that you're looking for, and you can get a massive selection of imagery to choose from and change the image's color just by moving this slider at the top. So if you need to specifically stay in maybe yellows or oranges, and then we can even come here into some deep reds, you can really define the search results even just based on their color. So it's a great tool that Shutterstock offers. You guys can try Shutterstock today without using a credit card. And if you guys head over and are about to check out, don't check out before using the offer code GameBreaker10. If you guys use the offer code GameBreaker10, you'll receive 25% off your new account. So there's been a lot of really interesting Wildstar news lately. So you guys should definitely check out our Wildstar show, UDSP, Unicorn Duck Shadow Puppet, for all of the details and in-depth discussion if you guys want to know more about that in depth. But Jason, let's talk about this just for a moment here. Did you get a chance at all to check out the ability mechanics video?
Yeah, I have watched that.
What did you think here? I mean, the combat is looking great. We've already had loads of movement and double jumps and telegraphs, but now they're talking about things like charging up abilities to increase power, you know, throwing a bunch of hits into a stunned enemy by spamming a key. Do these concepts sound good to you on paper?
I think I like them because I like anything that goes beyond the traditional kind of WoW-ish, stand there and do your stuff kind of abilities. Obviously, I like Guild Wars 2. I like playing DC Universe Online. That's what this actually reminds me of a little bit more, which had a little of that same kind of charging up and a little more combo clicking kind of thing. But it certainly lets you move around a bunch during your channels or during your cast time things. So that's where I think this feels a little more like that as opposed to even something like Guild Wars 2, which has a lot of movement as well. But I wonder. That's something I always wondered about when it came to something like Guild Wars 2 combat, which a lot of people don't like. That's fine; it's your cup of tea. But what did they not like about it? Was it the difficulty of the fights, which granted was uneven and sometimes was just a face roll, or was it the fact that you did have to move around, you do have to react, you do have to do these dodge rolls and all these crazy kind of combo kind of stuff to get real effectiveness out of it? Is that the issue? Are people more tied to the notion of stand in front of if you're the tank, you stand in front of the guy and you don't effing move. If you're a DPS, you have to stand there, do all your channels, move occasionally, you have to get out of the fire. What is that the difficult thing that people are not a fan of? If they are, if that's what they want, they're going to be really disappointed in that with something like Wildstar.
You know, I've got to say, and you brought up kind of Guild Wars, which to me brought up a lot of interesting memories when I was actively playing. I had a lot of issues. You know, I still suffer from it. And all MMOs in general. I don't think I've got carpal tunnel yet, but I do have those moments where my hands get really, really kind of sore, especially these, like my movement fingers. But I've got a question for you. You know, these mechanics that they're talking about, maybe they're not being, I don't want to say they're not being designed, but maybe they're not only being thought of as being used like this. Maybe in their development, they're talking about this. Because that type of combat fits to a controller so much more. We see that with action RPGs and this style of dodging and holding and quick tapping. That's nothing new to consoles. Do you think
DC Universe Online is on console? So there's the example right there. There's the comparison.
Do you think that they're keeping this in mind with their game design? Is the ability to take it to consoles?
I think that's something that's on a lot of people's minds, especially when we talk about the more quote-unquote modern kinds of MMOs with their action controls, with their smaller hotbars, because you can't have 30 abilities for someone in a console. At most, you can have like 10 or 15. So I think that's something that a lot of games, at least maybe way in the back of their mind, even if they aren't saying we're going to be on consoles, that's our exact plan. I think it's something that a lot of them are. It's maybe for that, and also just for the notion that they are trying to make things a little simpler in terms of number of buttons you have to press, and a little faster, like I said, a little not like stand there kind of WoW kind of combat. So even if they're not necessarily looking for consoles, I think they're definitely just trying to do something a little different, maybe, and make it a little more. I hate to use the word casual, but a little more accessible to a wider crowd, whether that crowd is going to be on PCs or whether it's going to be on consoles.
I mean, I'm still of the notion I would have loved to have seen an MMO, and I get it, Amalur wasn't, the design of how they were going to make Copernicus, but I would have loved to have seen an MMO that played with the fluidity that Amalur did. That was great. I don't think we've actually heard anything about a console release for Wildstar, but I really kind of hope they're keeping the option open because I think it would work really well with the type of combat that they're coming up with. But, going from those very simple but fun mechanics is something that's much more complicated, and it kind of sounds crazy complicated to when you consider the fact that their talent tree system, I believe, is almost like the Final Fantasy X sphere grid.
As long as it's not what is it? Path of Exile? Have you seen that? Oh my
gosh, I have seen that.
Oh my god, that thing's like Final Fantasy X on steroids.
These break the industry norm, but is that a good thing? I don't know if the sphere grid is the best example of what MMO fans have been screaming for. I get that very hardcore elite people like the open path branching system where you can really refine your character, but I don't think that's a majority of the player base. I loved Final Fantasy X when it came out. Loved it to death. Played the crap out of it. I did not sit there and theory craft about what sphere was better to take. I just took the next one that was in line. So
unless you were, except for Kamari, where you had to kind of choose and go all around all sorts of different
right.
things.
So I don't know. Do you think the sphere grid is a good thing for them to be considering to implement here?
I think it's part of the. I don't know. It's kind of like the schizophrenia of Wildstar. Like half the time I see something, I think, well, this is exactly what they're going to want for a casual wide audience. Then I see other things, I'm like, well, this is going to be perfectly suited to the hardcore, badass, top end kind of players.
And they're
I'm
all
never quite
about
sure which one
that.
they're doing.
They're all about that. They've been very vocal about trying to create a this is a hardcore game. You can go do 40 mans if you want, but if you don't, guess what? There's tons of other stuff for you to do. That's their design system. But I think where this is a little bit flawed is if this is like their talent system, this isn't just an optional thing. Hey, go do something else. This is like, here's your talents. Don't like it? Tough.
Well, I think in theory anybody can, play at least a decent character using the talent tree or using that. Because again, take Final Fantasy 11 or 10 as an example. If you were playing Yuna, if that was your character, she starts out with stuff that has magic and magic points and white magic. If you just stay in that area, you'll be a good white mage on Yuna or whatever. If you want, you branch out and you go give her some black magic or something like that. But if you want,
build her into such an awesome summoner. That was all she was good for. Was just summoning.
Exactly. Pretty much. But you can still stick around in your little area of white magic or whatever and just be really good at that without having to be some sort of uber theory crafter. If you want, maybe you're going to figure out, well, if I get this one black magic spell on this trait over here in Waka's tree or whatever and go all over the place, I'll be this uber badass. But you can still be pretty good with just the stuff around what you have.
Now, they're also going in and talking about including ability tiers as well, which is a system that will allow you to customize your abilities, which sounds really awesome. I think we talked about this on UDSP, maybe this show, I can't remember, but the idea of having a whirlwind as my example. Let's say we have a whirlwind attack, and I'm hoping that it's the type of system where you can choose to either make your whirlwind hit faster, hit for more ticks over its duration, or maybe you can put a point into increasing the speed at which you move while whirlwinding. So it's opening up, not only is it making the ability dynamic, but it's allowing the player to customize how they want to use the ability. Do they want to be just this hard thing that stays in a fight no matter what and does more damage, or do they want to add speed where they can maybe use it to catch up or get away from an enemy if possible? What do you think about the open-ended system of this?
See, that sounds to me like traits in some other games, where you have your whirlwind attack, and you can slot in a trait that makes it do more damage or go faster or whatever. So it's a little more granular, I guess, and that usually just has something like, in your example, you'd have a trait that says something like your AoE attacks do plus 10% damage or something. Or this might be a little more specific in that your whirlwind attack X, which is the actual name of it or whatever, can do this or can do this or can do this third thing or whatever. That's a little more neat, and certainly, again, like I said, applies to the more hardcore people who are really going to want to get that exact extra 0.1% DPS for a certain situation kind of thing, but probably doesn't necessarily put off the more casual players who would just be like, oh, I can make my thing do more damage. There's 3 different ways to do it. Fine, I don't care. I'll do more damage somehow.
I just think I like how this opens up the dynamic of combat, and I can't remember if Wildstar is specifically going to have a low amount of abilities, but for example, World of Warcraft kind of took this approach with their new talent system. Not exactly, but they created a system where you have choice over what you have and what you don't have, so that no class really feels the same because everybody gets their own choice. But what I like about the direction of this is if there's a low amount of abilities, when you're playing a class and when you're playing against a class, it really helps you understand the openness. You still know everything that your enemy is going to do. You still have a good comprehensive understanding of what abilities you have as a warrior or as a medic or whatever the case may be. But it opens up the dynamic to player choice, not in what abilities you have, but in the way that those abilities act. And I like that. I think that a lot of people like that, and a lot of people want to see this.
Yeah, it's not something you usually see a whole lot of, because as you said, a lot of games have more abilities, so they don't feel the need to essentially, if you already have 20 abilities, they don't need to expand it so that you have like 60 choices, like 3 for each. Whereas if it is a smaller ability game, this is a way to, as you say, kind of make it a console-friendly or sort of casual-friendly kind of thing, because it has very few abilities. But then you can expand upon those to give them a lot of different extra stuff, and that's probably a good way to go. And like I said, a good way to make it feel like it's for both casuals and for hardcores, without outwardly saying that and making it sound like it's watered down to everybody.
I just got this in directly from Carbine here. It's a UPS press release that states Wildstar will be perfectly balanced at launch. Good luck with that. Good luck with that, because I think you're going to have a lot of difficulties with this. I love the system. I love the flexibility that it's going to bring, but I think that there's going to be a lot of balance issues that you guys are going to have to work out. Let's move on and look at City of Heroes here, because City of Heroes actually might rise again after all. City of Titans was formerly known as the Phoenix Project, which was a spiritual successor to the MMO City of Heroes. Developed by Missing Worlds Media and staffed entirely by volunteers, it's hit Kickstarter and is actually doing pretty well. After just a few days, it's at 180,000 of its seemingly modest 300, I thought it was 200, 320,000 goal. So
it's actually
a
up to 230.
little,
it's actually 230.
it's at 230. Wow. So it's this math might be completely wrong, but it's almost 2/3. It's right around 2/3 of the way funded. I mean, reaching that goal at this point really doesn't seem like it's going to be a problem.
No, but you look at 320,000, you're like, really? Is that all?
Is that all? Yeah.
Not that you need, the Star Wars, the SWTOR $200 million budget, but 320. And if you look at how they break out the money, they actually go into it in the budget section. It's like they talk about the taxes, the Kickstarter fee. Basically, they have to like buy software and they have to license the engine. It's like the 320 gets them started. It's literally their starter money. So just to have enough stuff to actually make the game, not counting. Again, you say it's volunteers, but
what do you think of the game?
Nothing after that.
What do you think of the game from the Kickstarter? I mean, how far along do you think that they could possibly be? It was made by volunteers.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, the video doesn't show like a ton. I mean, it's showing mostly like I don't know. It's not. It's certainly not. It's better than Wireframe, but not much. It's got like basic movement or so on. It looks like they have structures with no textures or anything. A few textures here and there. Actually, it did advance a little bit. I only watched part of it. I have to admit, so bad person.
Well, and I think you were talking a little bit even about this. Is it's with Kickstarters in general. I think it's really important to be very open with the people that you're asking to donate, and they really are. I'm happy that they've got a really big section on their team and their budget. People should know when they're donating to these projects what their money is going to. And I think that there's a lot of, kind of silly Kickstarters out there, specifically in the film world, that it's like, give us $3,000 and you can be an executive producer. It's like, yay. It's like, at least you know what you're investing in. You know that they've at least thought this out. They're looking at it intelligently. They know their budget. And they're hopefully going to be able to stick to it. But, $320,000, as you kind of said, it's not going to be a lot. And when you take salaries into account, if they're all volunteers, maybe this number isn't crazy. If they're just putting that money into the development of the game and not paying any sort of salary.
But how can you keep volunteers on track for however long it's going to take, 2, 3, 4 years to make this game? These are all people with, I assume, regular jobs doing whatever their thing, 8 hours a day. They're working on this in their spare time. And then you're going to have expectations. People aren't going to want a game that's made by volunteers. Looks like it was put together in someone's spare time. They're going to want something that feels like City of Heroes, or at least like a modern day City of Heroes. City of Heroes was like 10 years old. We don't want it, no matter how much you would like it, you don't want a game coming out soon that looks like it came out in 2004.
Right.
You're going to want something a little more modern, a little more, maybe even fix some of the things that were wrong with City of Heroes. So I loved City of Heroes, and I wish them all the luck, but you got to be a little skeptical about how well they think that, how they're really excited about it now, but how excited are they still going to be 2 or 3 years down the line when they're having to debug the thing for the 38th time or whatever, and people are screaming at them about how much they're idiots that don't know what they're doing, which everyone does to every game developer, every game that comes out. So, I mean, good luck, guys. Good luck. I'm right there with you.
All right, it looks like CCP is starting to think outside the box, but before we get into that, I want to tell you about another sponsor we have here at Game Breaker, the one and only, the great, incredible service, Audible. Those of you guys out there who have busy lives like myself, reading is the first thing to go. And it's sad. It's sad, especially, when you're talking and when you're you want to be a better speaker. Reading is some of the best knowledge that you can bring to the table, and hearing these stories. Be a better storyteller. You want to be able to read some books. And sometimes, you just don't have the time to read. And that's exactly what Audible.com remedies. Now, a lot of you out there maybe are excited about the new movie that's coming out, Ender's Game, but maybe you didn't know Ender's Game is actually a book first, and you haven't, or maybe you did, and you just haven't had the time to read it. Well, I've got an offer for you guys. If you guys want to check out Ender's Game in its book format, head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker, and you guys can sign up for an account and start listening to the novel Ender's Game right now. Feel free to voice your opinion now when you go see the movie over which was better, the book or the movie. You can be well educated on the subject, and you can tell all of your friends when you walk out that the book was better. 12 hours of your time, which, if you think about it, isn't much. It's more than the movie, but you'll get a much richer experience, and you'll get the whole book read to you. So if you guys, like I said, if you head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker, you can sign up for a free account. Not a free account, I'm sorry, a free 30 days, and you can get a free audiobook, so you can actually start listening to Ender's Game right now. All right, as I said, CCP is thinking outside of the box, as it appears Dust 514 launched on PS3, and despite the cries of CCP's PC fan base,
that's CCP's PC.
I know, come on, like, that's ridiculous. There have been no signs of a PC release for Dust. Now, I think we've all figured out, at this point, it was a Sony thing, right? Some kind of exclusive deal. That has to be what it was. Or, according to CCP's CEO, when speaking to Eurogamer, that isn't the case at all. So, if it was not an exclusive, why isn't this on PC? Didn't we talk about this last week? I believe we did. Last week we talked about how PlayStation 4 is fast approaching. Month away. I get that the PlayStation 3 will be around for a while, but I don't think it's going to be around indefinitely, and you're going to lose your software. There must have been a reason. There has to have been a reason they wanted the PS3 to release, or to be on PS3. Sony have been all over the free-to-play train lately. But do you think that with 500,000 plus EVE players, that they would be a priority?
Is that enough? Because
are they seeing better numbers on the PlayStation 3? I don't think they are.
Well, but did they think they would see better numbers? Because he even mentioned, Timer mentions in that interview, there are 80 million PlayStation 3 people. Remember a while back, their marketing director or whatever said there are tens of millions of people on the PlayStation 3 that can play this. I think they always had something like that in mind. Not necessarily all of the PlayStation 3 players, but they saw 80 million people. We can get in on that. We can get a good chunk of that. Even if you get like 1% of that, that's 800,000. That's more than you have the Eve players. I think they truly thought that they could hit a lot of PlayStation 3 players. If they realized that their peak possibility on PC was the 500,000 Eve players, of which not all were going to play it probably, so they figured, yeah, some fraction of that, maybe their peak they thought they could get on PC was like 300,000 or something. And if that was the case, maybe that's why they really wanted to get into the consoles, to get into PlayStation 3, to go after those tens of millions of potential players.
I mean, they said that they want to focus on PlayStation 3 users and treat those players well, but maybe Dust 514 is doing really well. I don't have the exact metrics on it, but I just don't think we're hearing about it because
maybe there's a reason for that.
Exactly, but I don't want to come out and claim that it's doing bad. Like I said, I don't have the metrics to say that Dust 514 is poorly received, doing bad financially. I do not know, but I can tell you that I have not heard this overwhelming population of people that have played it that are loving it. I've actually heard of a larger population of people that are playing it and don't really like it. So I just don't know.
I mean, yeah, that's like I said. I looked around a little bit too. I just looked at a few forums. I looked at reviews. It's a 59 on Metacritic, which 59 for supposedly well-produced AAA kind of game is really pretty lousy. When even the kind of crappy AAA games at like 70s and 80s, getting a 59 is not real good. A lot of people say it's really mediocre compared to the other shooters, your Battlefield, your Call of Duty, or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's tough to think that it actually is doing that well.
It's tough to say. I don't know. It confuses me, but let's move on. Cryptic will soon be merging all of its servers down to numero uno. One server. Now, that isn't really the best headline in the world, but according to Cryptic, this has always been their goal, and they're selling this as a good thing. Hooray! We're moving down to one server. Everybody can play with themselves. Because I know if Gary was here,
you can play with yourself. Like,
oh. Exactly. If Gary was here, he'd be like, "Oh, no more servers. This is great. This is the future of MMOs. This is exactly what we wanted." But not that it can't be a good thing for population to have a single population so that your servers are larger and more populated. Ultimately, if you're, and again, I'll just put this disclaimer, I don't know anything about server loads and how strong they can or can't be, but if your entire game can fit on one server, that doesn't sound like a lot of people to me. What do you think, Jason?
Well, first of all, they are correct. Before the game came out in their FAQ, they said, we're going to launch with 3 servers and we're going to merge them down to 1 at some point. So that has always been their plan. And on the one hand, you kind of, I have to almost compliment them for kind of understanding, for being realistic, because every MMO comes out with, we sold 2 million copies in the first month, and we've got 83,000 servers, and everybody's playing. They don't seem to have any concept of the notion that they might actually get smaller as time goes on. Every business wants to grow, but virtually no MMO ever does. So they at least realized with Neverwinter that they were going to start off big, then it was going to kind of come down some and level off. Hopefully level off and not completely go down the pipes. So I give them credit for that. But you're right, it still can't be considered a great thing when your game is on one server, regardless of whether you planned for it or otherwise. At least it probably means that they're not looking to lay off 3/4 of their staff because they were expecting some huge influx of players and they're not getting it, so now they have to lay off everybody. So maybe that's a good thing on some level. I'm trying to find the silver lining.
you're stretching. Yeah, just keep trying. Just keep trying. I don't know. It's It is very much their justification for saying that that was their goal all along, and it offers benefits. A single server offers benefits. It can be very good, but doesn't sound very good when you think about the adverse effect that you're. It's the same problem why people always have a problem when server mergers come out. Well, you have to merge servers because you're losing people and no one's playing the game. That's the other political side of it that maybe they're trying to hide, or maybe it's not affecting them at all. I don't know, but it's interesting to say the least. Neverwinter going down to one server. Jason Winter, you can follow him right down there at Jason Winter. Be sure to catch his articles over on MMO Bomb and This Week in MMO every week. Follow him right down there at Winter Informal. Jason, you got anything coming up?
Got like 3 or 4 things that nobody's getting back to me on. Damn it.
Oh, that's no fun.
Angry.
Grrr. You guys can follow me, not right down here, but if you know my name, Mike Schaff. Well, here. I don't have a lower third, a fancy new lower third, but follow me at Mike Schaffnitz. Be sure to follow Gamebreaker TV as well, and check out Gamebreaker TV for all of your MMO-related news. If you guys love This Week in MMO, this show typically goes live, I believe, on Fridays at 3.
Yes,
is its usual
3
time slot. There was a special case this week because Gary obviously is out of town, and I've got other work I need to get to, as well as some League of Legends.
Date.
I've got League of Legends World Championships to go see, and I'm super excited. So, that does it for us, though.
You just have a hot date.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I was trying to be modest. Be sure to catch everything we do. If you guys, like I said, like MMO news, Gamebreaker TV puts out a whole bunch of MMO-related news daily. So be sure to check out all the great work that the writers do over there. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week.